Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Talk the Book, the book reviewing program of AP State Council of Higher Education. And our esteemed book reviewer for today is Sri Perugu Ramakrishna Garu, a luminary in the realm of Telugu literature. Please join me in welcoming Sri Perugu Ramakrishna Garu. Sri Ramakrishna's illustrious career as a retired commercial taxes officer is but a mere facet of his multifaceted persona. With a degree in English literature and in public administration, he has left an indelible mark on the realm of Telugu literature. With his staggering 26 books and 10 Kavita Sankanalalu in Telugu literature. But Perugu Ramakrishna sir's contribution extends far beyond the borders of Telugu-speaking regions. His tireless efforts in popularizing Telugu literature have taken him to distant shores, from the picturesque landscape of Greece to the historic streets of the Czech Republic. His poetic prowess knows no bounds, transcending linguistic barriers as his Telugu poetry finds resonance in the hearts of readers across Albania, Romania, Japan, Greece, and beyond. In recognition of his literary achievements, he was bestowed with the honorary doctorate from the state of Czech Republic. And let's not forget the impact of his work on the younger generation. Sri Perugu Ramakrishna's poetry has found a place in the 9th class textbook of Andhra Pradesh state, ensuring that his legacy continues to inspire generations to come. Now, Sri Ramakrishna sir takes us on a journey through the pages of Sense of Enigma by Jacob Isaac, promising to unravel the mysteries and complexities that lie within its prose. Over to you, sir. Sri Perugu Ramakrishna Garu.
Namaskaram. Good afternoon, everyone. My sincere gratitude and heartfelt thanks to Professor Hemachandra Reddy Garu, Chairman of this Higher Education Council, for organizing this type of unique work and other team for following the orders of messages of the chairman. Today, I am going to review and introduce you a book, Sense of Enigma, English Poetry by Dr. Jacob Isaac. A small note about Jacob Isaac in the beginning. Jacob Isaac is an award-winning, internationally acclaimed English poet. He born in Mavelikara, Kerala. He is the founder of the St. Thomas Education Project in South Africa and the founder, owner, and chief executive officer of the Good Shepherd Model Schools in South Africa. Although he is an entrepreneur, he is passionate with the poetry. Using rhythms and language, he communicates psychological perspective from the hidden and invisible world of human consciousness through his poetic expressions. His distinctive poetics and persona create a unique style of his poetry, which evoked much attention from many corners of the world. Isaac's widely recognized book of poetry, Sense of Enigma, his first work, collection of poems, published in 2012 by Media House, New Delhi, was translated into the Spanish language and published in America in 2015 with the Spanish title Sense of Enigma, Sentido de Enigma by Luis Alberto Ambragosia, the famous scholar and writer of the North American Academy of the Spanish language. The Sense of Enigma is currently being translated into French and Uzbek languages. His seminal poetic work, Sense of Enigma, has received numerous international, national, and state level awards for excellence in poetry. He was conferred with honored with Doctor of Literature by the World Academy of Arts and Culture in World Congress of Poets for having served as a qualifying jury in poetry contest 39th W Congress and 50th anniversary of his foundation. He was honored with the Golden Rose Award in 2019 for high humanity quality and writing in the field of arts and literature, Buenos Aires, Argentina. He is presently an executive board member of World Academy of Arts and Culture and World Congress of Poets in India. Mystic Kalanga Literary Award also he received in 2017 in Bhubaneswar, India. Such a unique poet, Dr. Jacob Isaac's first work is Sense of Enigma. His techniques deviate from the accepted path and take a new turn always. Communicative, compassionate, and contemplative. Mr. Isaac's poems resolve round fundamental and intangible images. Sense of Enigma, a rare collection, reveals the poet's stand on the sensual and celestial celestial aspects of human life. Eminent people from many parts of the world have written studies, analysis, and reviews on this particular poetry book, which were recently compiled in the name of critical analysis of the towering poet Jacob Isaac and released in 2023 at Bangalore. And they are organizing various places in India introducing that analysis book. So many global poets and eminent poets addressed on Sense of Enigma about the author. Zek, an eminent Indian English poet and scholar, he says, poems in the 2 volumes of Sense of Enigma and also his latest work, Time Shield, they belonging to the true world of imagination of their rejection of traditional structures of linguistic formations and meanings, and in bringing alive the chaos that envelops human life through a rebellious poetic form. I was impressed by the forcefulness of Jacob's poetic statements and the way they jettison precise meanings and bring in transcendental visions rooted in a world of verbal freedom. And the former Chief Secretary of Kerala State and a retired IAS officer, Dr. Jayakumar, comments on this Sense of Enigma. These poems bear the painful imprint of history, tears of dark dreams, and the outcry of a bruised age. Living in South Africa, Dr. Jacob Isaac distills in his poems the anger, anguish, and hope of an emotionally wounded nation. However, the abiding tone is I can, and that affirmation is what good poetry uniquely provides. These poems encapsulate the spirit of his times and outline the art of living in traumatic times also. And my poetic views on this particular book, I recorded as follows. To name an object is to suppress 3/4 of the enjoyment of the poems, which is made up of gradual discovery. To suggest it, that is the dream. there must always be an enigma in poetry. This is a quote from Stephen Mallarmé. The psychology, the poetry are two different fields. It is not easy to compare these two, although they cannot be compared, but there is a close nexus which undoubtedly exists between them. This connection arises from the fact that the practice of the art is a psychological activity and as such can be approached from a psychological angle. Considered in the light, art like poetry or any other activity deriving from the subject for psychology will have multiple reflections. Art by its very nature is not science, and science by its nature is not art. Both these spheres of the mind have something in reserve that is peculiar to them and can be explained only in its own terms. Hence, when we speak of the relation of psychology to art, we shall treat only of that aspect of art which can be submitted to psychological scrutiny without violating its nature. Similarly, while coming to the philosophical aspect, Aristotle surveys various types of the poetical imitations, distinguishing them according to means, object, and manner under the heading of differences of means in discussing compositions which use neither harmony nor verse. Aristotle mentions genre of Socratic conversations. I take him to be touching for a moment on the generic classification of philosophical works. He goes on to distinguish a cosmologist writing in poetry from a true poet. Thus, Jacob's poetic work shows both presence of philosophic and psychological genres. Thus, the poet Dr. Jacob Isaac's collection of poetry, Sense of Enigma, reflects both the angles of poetry, visibly psychological and philosophical interpretations as well. While observing both the diversified fields, the philosophy deals with the study of nature of life, whereas psychology deals with the study of the mind and its behavior. This is a very important point. A psychologist attempts to understand the role of the functions of the mind in social behavior and explores the neurological processes that guide mental behaviors. Let us Sense of Enigma review with the famous poet, critic, intellectual, and activist, Mr. Christopher Caldwell's views, stating, quoting, "Let us have no illusions about the objectivity of art. There is always an ideology behind it, however indirectly stated, because of all art attempts to answer tragic question, and each answer implies a program or at least an attitude to live." I unquote. This clearly envisages that a poet dreams and succeeds to evolve poetry like a craftsperson. Like a craftsperson, he evolves. This sense of enigma begin with the conditions of the fantasy poem. Fantasy, a Greek word, means making visible, is a genre of fiction, poetry that concentrates on imaginary elements, tracking the conditions of fantasy and remarkable shades of excitement. There reside my courtesy words for tuning. Here emerge the primitive privileges of polarity. He indirectly reveals that a polarity or paradox is a situation in which opposing forces within a system pull at each other to keep things balanced. But like inhaling and exhaling, each pole can't exist without the other. Polarities are everywhere because we live in a complex world. Secondly, he touches another poem, Indifference title, saying prudence of the impulses, beating the timeless efforts, an unreflective urge or desire to act requires prudence, like jurisprudence in the world. In the similar manner, he gives various aspects visibly, neural mapping, which explains nothing but brain mapping, a lengthy poem, dramatic home, aging liberty, nostalgic numbness, etc., clearly shows the ideas of the poet. In 22 masterpiece of poems, Dr. Jacob Isaac manifests extensive experimentation, divergence from the conventional modes of expression and exercise of liberty in form and content. And use of language is also specifically to be mentioned here. By nature, he is an entrepreneur of a business enterprise, but his passion in portraying the powerful feelings and thoughts through poetry supersedes all his other interests. By using imagery and metaphors, he creates meaning and beauty to the feelings and thoughts, and to the inexplicable, enigmatic, and existential situations. Poetry has in all times been a recuperative medium to relieve humankind of the complexities of life. India has such a rich legacy of poetic forms, and its poetic voices have always generated a magnetic effect. And Dr. Jacobs' poetry takes us to unknown black holes in the universe. In conclusion of my review, my personal review on his poetic work, the Enigma is a portrayal of life and how we perceive of it. In that sense of Enigma poetry collection is a portrayal of life in different dimensions and how we perceive of it. It is indication of how difficult it is to understand the truth of existence. Jacob Isaac has depicted the dreams have a way of forcing us to deal with the uncertainties that we may have locked up in our thoughts. The Enigma poetry confronts and challenges us to deal with the uncertainty, unpreparedness, and inadequacy in what awaits us when we wake up. These poems leaves the reader with many more questions. Considering it also has questions left hanging, which is typical Stevenson's poetry. It is which appears to be typical like Stevenson's poetry. All in all, this is a great poetry collection by the eminent writer Jacob Isaac once again. And another important dignitary from the abroad, Anil Mitrana Mandapuram, he also commented on Sense of Enigma as follows. Whoever leaves his homeland and migrates to any foreign country, is telling about the author here, the first and foremost objective is to secure their prospectus in life or acquire better education. Even though this is visible on the surface level as a prerequisite, he obviously carries an abundance of memories about his childhood, his roots, culture, nature, and the heritages that belong to his fraternity. The footprints of relationships, pain, love, and innate elements would shadow his actions throughout his life, irrespective of the geographical belongings and identity. This is a natural phenomenon being illustrated implicitly in every human being who decides or destined to be a migrant. But for many such common men, these memories, shadows, and footprints die within a decay slowly as the time passes by. This we can see in many of the non-resident Indians. When we observe their diasporic write-ups, their works, when we study this, we can clearly notice it. These nonsense won't create any scar on or remarkable change in the spectrum of their mind, vocabulary, as well as imagination. Instead, they might become satiated in the peripheral outcomes and derivations about those past elements, thus interpreting a political map or cultural imprint just as a representation of knowledge or information related to their homeland. Here comes another group of people who are blessed with an instinct, creativity, and intuitiveness, along with incredible cognitive excellence among these immigrants. It becomes imperative for the human species to express the colors and shadows of all elements pertaining to their past memories in life. A nostalgic memories always haunts us. Be it good or bad, for them, whatever comes up to their mind is the vibration of a feeling that can produce a rhythm of literary interpretation, just like the vibrating strings of a violin or guitar can produce a soothing musical experience. All their childhood memories, small trodden roads filled with dry leaves and tiny potholes, plants, and flowers blossom through many meaningful events of innocence and love, etc., can become a portrait of their imageries. Dr. Jacob Isaac, the author of this wonderful book named Sense of Enigma, is an excellent poet, equipped with innate talent of great imagination and observation. He also suits to be attributed to all qualities and parameter mentioned above. Uh, his life is decorated by umpteen colors that transcend emotions of his homeland, as well as his beloved living place, South Africa, which nurtured him to what he at present becomes. The poetries written by Dr. Jacob Isaac have a unique significance of shading the words with different flavors of beauty and feelings. He knows the mantra of interpreting thoughts into another dimensions that can depict an opposite world or hidden darkness. His life surpasses the normal pattern appears in the calendar years and carries the reader to another world of fantasy and solitude. His present book titled Sense of Enigma is filled with many such deep poems which articulate melancholy, loneliness, ignorance, discrimination, and many other dark sides of human life. This book also portrays beautiful rendering of ecstasy, seasons, love, romance, nature, dreams, etc. He is so experienced and seasoned in the great art of poetry that all his writings has an elite magic of conjugating two elements that are complementing each other. He even knows the secret of depicting these differences indifferently, stuffing amidst the intense flow of poetic outbursts. It is almost impossible to delineate all 22 poems in this particular book. I fear that the interpretation of each poem would go beyond the scope of this prescribed article. Hence, we try to cherry pick very few among them and attempt to share little thoughts and observations. The poet talks about many dimensions of life and relationships without losing its intricacy by meaning at the same time, it with simplicity. Many such examples are visible in the book with the title I Am, I Can, Aging Liberty, Indifference, Nomadic Impulses, and Leading the Gap. The roots, the rears of discrimination of the weak are sketched indirectly in the poem Imaginating Eager. One can visualize the agony and uncertainty of the society and their hopeful protests against the authorities in order to resolve the sectorial challenges and imbalances. The poet is taking us into disputes and struggle in daily life. The poet is taking us into the disputes and struggle in everyday life. In the poem, Let Me Have My Naked Eyes, titled, he meticulously depicts the gradual transition of human being with the influences of fake realities and social propaganda happening around them. He portrayed the forceful misfortune of innocent people to become victims of dark realities, social discrimination, etc. Poet ends it by emphasizing this very fact about the modern world. Days and ways covered my eyes. Let me have my naked eyes, he says. In the poem, Dramatic Home, another poem, he uses almost all literary skills in his arsenal to make it rich in imagination, nature delicacy, metaphors, rhythmic combinations of human feelings, adjectives, and adverbs that elate the projection of emotions, etc. The dialogues of ages and words of nature in its innate beauty presented in this poem make it exquisite. We can find many of such beautiful and elated poetry in this particular collection. Writer Jacob Isaac and publisher, we always must congratulate the both the persons for bringing such a such a great book, wherein the reviews of the poems are written by many writers, by an eloquent. We must appreciate the author for going this qualitative Indian English poetry into eloquent translation of Spanish language. Another important author from Kerala, P.K.N. Panikkar, reveals Sense of Enigma. The title of this anthology of poems by Jacob carries in itself statement deep enough to be pondered over. Obviously, he tells that readers to expect a riddle of complex metaphors that would demand complete alertness and ingenuity to understand and appreciate the incomprehensible mixture of opposed qualities in the poems carried therein. While that which is definite transcends into the realm of science, which lacks definiteness, transcends into philosophy, as pointed out in the foreword by book foreword for Sense of Enigma, was written by one of the professor Dominic, says that no doubts, by their very nature, the poems in this anthology are highly psychological and philosophical, and at times mystic also. Another striking aspect of his use of language, structure, syntactically and grammatically differing from the normal, and a different word to word bonding to drive a new meanings into the words. This makes it difficult for the average reader to understand and appreciate. There's such a tough, complex language he uses in all his psychological and philosophical poetry in this sense of anything. This makes it difficult for the average reader to understand and appreciate, to penetrate into and decipher what the poet tries to convey, calling for greater effort. Even as the poet lives in an indeterminate, enigmatic state, the images he creates and the emotions he goes through seem to fluctuate between the real and the imagined. He goes through seems to fluctuate between the real and the imaginary. His ultimate vision of the life seems to rest on the positive belief that no vacuum is permanent and is only transient in nature. This is what the poet tried to convey. Jacob Isaac, with the addiction of this anthology, sense of Enigma, has indeed enriched the world of sublime poetry. And some expeditions through the minds of labyrinth, in another critic, Susan Joshi quotes, the verses in Mr. Jacob Isaac's collection of poetry, Sense of Enigma, showcase a journey through the mind, labyrinth inviting thoughts with poetic might. Poems with complex and fragmented images offer a captivating literary journey that challenges the reader's intellect. This is one very important point to be noted. Poems with complex and fragmented images offer a captivating captivating literary journey that challenges the reader's intellect. When we're going through these sort of tough poetic collections, we must observe this. The intricate web of metaphors, similes, and symbols create a tapestry of meaning, inviting us to unravel hidden depths. Each line is puzzle piece, urging us to decipher the enigmatic beauty concealed within. Like a mosaic of emotions and ideas, these poems engage our senses and stretch our imaginations, evoking a myriad of interpretations. They demand active participation, rewarding those who embrace the exhilarating quest for understanding. So, readers also must be very cautious when we're going through such a critical poetic works. As he writes in loading suggestions, touching the rhythm of the mind, stripping the fear of the mind, tipping and feeding the power of the word, the poet manifests himself and speaks of baptizing our remote impulses. To cite a few, as we already discussed, poem Neural Mapping explores the intuitive thoughts, and another poem, Time Shield, mentions the invocable legacy of relations. In Nostalgic Numbness, the poet captures the essence of a numbing sensation that permeates the mind, born from the experiences one encounters in life. Though daunting at times, the elusive nature of author Jacob poems fuels our intellectual curiosity. Unlocking their secrets becomes a challenge, yielding moments of self-discovery. In their intricate complexity, these poems offer an immersive experience that lingers long after the last line is read. So this is the uniqueness of his poetry. Another critical analysis done by Professor Lata Nair also depicts the similar compliments for the author. The anthology of poems by Dr. Jacob offers us whole range of emotions. Everyone says the same thing. Whole range of human emotions in our daily life reflects properly in this collection. This anthology of poems by Jacob offers us a whole range of emotions through the choicest words and meanings, embellished with significations. His poetic language sometimes drifts, deciphering the intent behind these words. As he says in the poem, A Sense of Enigma, title poem, this book too is a trip to the map of aspirations, where we sit and pat our theme. As one moves through the 22 poems in this poetry collection, one is drawn towards thoughts about the complexities of life and is forced to confront the ambiguous allergies of feelings. On the other side of this confrontation, one is reminded of all of the limitations of being human. He grapples with the dynamics of social transgressions, and each poem bears the indelible echoes of his negotiations with the changing world around him. Through brief thought provoking statements or questions, he establishes his linguistic status quo, where he uses metaphorical language, wordplay, and clever imagery to present each poem as a puzzle. As a puzzle. One of the most enjoyable elements of his word plays is the creative use of collage and his unique choice of word pairs of phrases, word pairs or phrases. Lines like aging liberty, the liberal liberty, aging in the ages, ageless emotions. This is a poem, Aging Liberties. Or now my thoughts are thoughts of thoughts, now my spots are vague and vague. Lend a certain whimsy to the tone at first, but then back it up with definite gravitas. His passionate, his panoramatic dalliances with these signifiers and make the thoroughly enjoyable anthology. In the poem I Am, I Can, there is another delightful stylistic experiment where he elevates ordinary language and bequeaths it with the full weight of his emotive prowesses. In the poem, tickling out the bird, we see his postmodernism about identity and image, where he emphasizes the erosion of values and threats offered by radicalism. Though through poems like Aging Liberty, Dramatic Hope, and Coming Station, he is to transcend traditional boundaries, offering a poetic landscape where social and political issues are interwoven with the personal experiences. His poems share a deep social concern where he pokes holes in ideological virtues and chaos there, offering up that honey for the readers. One also feels that his poetry has roots in the transversal struggles around the culture, castle, the right to cultural differences, and the suppression of autonomy. Dr. Isaac, as a poet, has an eye for social nuisance, societal nuance. Collections that challenges conventional norms and invites readers to question their own perspectives. This is not a collective collection for passive consumption. Point. This is not a collection for passive consumption. It demands active engagement and reflection. Active engagement and otherwise follow the complexity of the content and the language. The poems are layered with multiple meanings and open to interpretation, encouraging readers to explore their own understanding of the themes presented. The collection opens with the conditioning of fantasy poem and ends with grading impact. 22 a powerful, poignant, and splendid poems one must go through with a vision, with the enthusiasm, with read. Then only one can follow the complexity and the human emotions of life depicted in multiple dimensions in the anthology of Sense of Enigma, authored by Dr. Jacob Isaac. Before concluding, I like to recite some of his poems. Passion Sea is a titled small poem. Passion Sea. Sure, the wonder of this face, here crowding eyes and depth of show, spear the logic smear, there I see the lavish share. Come again with no man's shade, mind again the honor march, there the drowsy lesson of might, wild and vague your challenging nod, mild and rosy sharing shine, there I feel follow you. Tell me dwelling inspire gauge, spell attractive gestures, fumes, gel your vague and raw image, pure provoking passion see, you are evoking lavish again. You are evoking lavish again. Another poem titled, Let Me Have My Naked Eyes. We have listened some critical analysis of this particular poem by the eminents. The poem goes like this. Rumors and tuners, favors and rhythms, grouping the life and treating the treating the target. Rumors and tuners, favors and rhythms, grouping the life and treating the target. Throwing the modest moving monastery, paving pose of growing images, reading the path of love and images. Now, then the rumors, stress of tremendous, hues of prolonging, auto suggestions, rude and peasant of grannies, reactions, nannies, lamenting, four of positions, falling my head and rooming my feelings, running the stories, telling the ages, aging the home, mood weighing the youngness, rating the lunar, praising the net range, home and holy, tuition gone, long and lovely passion mourn, days and ways covered my eyes. Let me have my naked eyes. Let me have my naked eyes. And the last poem, Grading Impact, title, it goes like this. A fuzzy parlor of behavioral, informal control, beloved nationals, actual motivating attitude, created by the worth style of identity arrangements of fabulous reaching levels of star levels of commissioning my free copyrights of complex. Free copyright of complex. Staring the logical tunnels of my therapeutic attitude, my voice and noise, quiet and disciplined, timing and timing, surprise surrounding, louder legacy, nodding rehearsal, turning the lobby, labels amazing, prawning reception, impact amazing. Look me my snubbling social therapy. Look me my social therapy. So this is all about the very enigmatic poetic work done by Dr. Jacob Isaac, a non-resident Indian poet from Kerala. He lives in South Africa for the last 30 years, but he never forgotten his roots. And his many of other collections are now under latest collection is also getting published from the Patridge. And we congratulate such a enigmatic poet, Dr. Jacob. And I thank for introducing such a powerful poetry to the august audiences of this show. I pay my gratitudes to the chairman, M. Chandra Reddy Garu, and all other team for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, one and all.
So with this, we conclude yet another episode, 152nd episode of Talk the Book. So we had the privilege of delving into the literary genius of sense of Enigma through the discerning lens of Sri Perugu Ramakrishna Garu. Sri Ramakrishna's profound insights and unparalleled passion for literature have illuminated the intricate tapestry of the sense of Enigma, and it reminds us about Jacob Isaac's good work of poetry. Now, as we come to an end, let me thank profusely on behalf of AP State Council of Higher Education and on the behalf of all the viewers, a big thanks to Sri Perugu Ramakrishna Garu. So a heartfelt thanks to you, sir, for sharing your wisdom and your literary passion as well as your literary expertise, what you have to all our viewers. So thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So I thank all the viewers,
Welcome.
and then I let us meet for the 153rd episode of Talk the Book, maybe with a Telugu book review. Till then, keep reading, keep talking the book. Thank you. Thank you very much.